Germany. I was at a film festival.
Oh.
And then the lady started to have a conversation, like before the screen of my film.
Yeah.
And then she started saying, Osama bin. And then, okay, Osama Wardani.
Your middle name isn't Ben, is it?
No. Not at all.
Okay. So, and this is interesting because this is so I'm doing this for my church.
Okay.
All right. So I won't sit too close to you, but I guess I do need to sit kind of close. So, so you're Osama. So the reason I'm doing this for my church is I'm trying to show people at my church that we can have conversations, civil conversations about religion, and it's good that I assume you're Muslim or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to show that we can talk to anybody, you know,
sure.
and we don't have to be in church to do it or whatever, you know.
No, you don't have to be there.
Yeah.
No.
So the question that I have, I'm just wondering if that's close enough for volume. I'm going to put it a little bit closer, just because you're a little soft-spoken. So, so Osama, universally, everyone's going to die, right?
Sure, yeah.
So someday. So my question is, what happens next? What in your belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you believe about that, I mean, I give this question to everybody, right? How did you get to your belief, right? Or doubts. Some people have doubts about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what do you think? What do you think happens? Like, if anything, maybe you don't believe any, you know.
Actually, I believe that I don't believe in religion.
Okay.
Like Christians, Muslims,
Okay.
Jews.
So you grew up culturally, you're
whatever.
Muslim, but maybe not
But I'm
religiously.
not.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I believe that there is God.
Okay. Yeah.
There must be a God.
Yeah. Like a maker that.
The maker of universe.
Maker of
the
the,
maker
yeah.
of
The
human
ultimate
beings.
creator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because I don't see like different people, different colors, different religion. Like I see that there is a human being
yeah.
and there is a maker,
Yeah.
and we have to live in peace, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. Is it hard? Was it hard? So you grew up as a Muslim. Were you educated in like Muslim schools, things like that?
Yeah, sure.
So, would other Muslims say that you're going against Islam to say that you don't believe the religions are different? You don't believe in religion, but you do believe in God, right?
Yeah.
Allah or God, maybe not a particular religion, but creator, right?
Yeah, the creator. Yeah.
How did you arrive at your present opinion about that?
I cannot speak that loud in Egypt. You know?
Right.
I cannot say it in Egypt. You will go to prison if you say
Okay.
that you don't believe in such and such.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to divert to another religion,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta face the same problem, but
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah. So even growing up, did you have doubts that you couldn't express in Egypt? How long did you live in Egypt? How old were you?
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
You seem younger than that. How old are you?
I'm 30. Yeah.
Oh, you're 30. You
Yeah.
just moved here
Yeah.
recently?
I came here just in December
Oh, wow.
8th. Yeah.
Okay. And you said you're a filmmaker. Were you outside of Egypt in other places before Chicago?
Yeah, I've been in Libya
Uh-huh.
to shoot my first film.
Libya.
Yeah, in the revolution of Libya.
Oh, wow.
At the time where there was a civil revolution before
Yeah.
they came to.
And
cut
would that be, what, about
wars.
6-7 years ago? During the Arab Spring whole thing?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In February. In February, the second.
Uh-huh. Yep. Of 2011.
Yes.
And you made a film during that time.
Yeah. I went there. I went to the battle line between the revolutionaries and Gaddafi's
Wow.
at the time.
Imagine putting your life on the line.
At that time, you don't like lives don't matter. You know, there is a belief in that we all Arab countries can revolt against dictators.
Okay.
And this is why I moved to Libya in the revolution in the first place, and second place to film what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I was doing the same in Egypt.
So
I
your
went
film
to-
is a documentary
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, and I went to a lot of European countries
Mm-hmm.
for festivals and stuff.
Showing the film, and
Yeah,
is that your one film, or do you have others?
I have 3 films before I divert my profession from filmmaking to editing only.
To what?
Editing.
Editing.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So, do you express your? Well, so getting back to your religious beliefs, it sounds like you have some doubts about religion, but belief about God. Right?
Yeah, sure.
More general belief about God.
Yes. Because when you get to religion, you will
Mhm.
find people,
Conflict.
Yeah, conflict and I don't know, but I grew up in Egypt,
Yeah.
and I see the conflict between Muslims and Christians all the time.
The Coptic
that-
Christians.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that's not.
In your experience, are the Coptic Christians just as guilty of creating conflict? I don't know. I don't know what to think from our perspective here in America.
No, they're not guilty. Nobody's.
Are they
guilty.
kind of like being victimized, or
They are being. I don't know what do you mean by.
victimized? Like you know, like whenever there's a conflict, you can say, okay, well that side started it. This side might respond with violence or more conflict, but where did it begin? You know, like who's causing who's the main side causing the conflict? And I'm not trying to say one or the other. I don't know. I'm asking. You know, I'm wondering, what do you think, or don't you know?
Okay.
Is that hard to figure out?
I'll tell you something, because there is 2 visions of the stories. First of all, Coptic, they say we are the owners of the land. We have been here before Islam,
Mm-hmm.
and that's true. And then you came by sword and took over the land. But the
Mhm.
Muslims had another story for that. They say that the real Christian religion
Mhm.
is not there, because they have a lot of
It's phony.
fragments,
Mhm.
like Orthodox, Catholic.
Okay. Yeah.
Bear in mind that Muslims are 2. There is Sunnis, there is Shias, there is Sikh. You know.
Right. Right.
But they have this story that there is no like the first, not the first, like the original Bible,
yeah.
and that you don't have the right to build more church and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the government is with the minority.
Oh, it
like
is?
Christians.
The Egyptian government is?
Yes.
Oh.
And then the Muslims,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like we are the majority.
Right.
We believe that we have the right to have the government at our side.
Mm-hmm.
And but in fact, at the end of the day, the causalities. What do you call it?
Causalities?
Yes.
The causes? The cause?
No, not the causes. Like the
blame?
no, not the blame. Like the who loses more?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Are the Christians.
Yeah.
And who starts the fights are the Muslims.
And why does the government back the Christians? Just because they are a minority and they need protection or something? Or
Something like that. But at the same time, they let the Muslims do the things.
I mean,
whenever they want.
there's international an image to protect of, you know, and there's the tourist trade. We want to protect tourism, right? I've been to Egypt myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was a long time ago, 1983.
Okay.
But I know the tourist trade was very big there, very important. So when would you say you started to veer away from the Islam you were trained in and taught, and more towards a more, I guess you'd say, a universal, just a belief in God, but getting away from religion? What?
You mean when or?
Yeah, like how old were you, or what's caused you to? Because I'm assuming you were well trained and taught in Islam, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of, because I was a strict Muslim.
Yeah, and just so you know, like I asked this question of a lot of people, and the pattern that I see is, any religion, you grow up in it and it becomes part of your culture. And you can say, oh, these are my beliefs, but really as a young person, it's like, these are the beliefs of my parents, right? And then when you get to a certain age, some people it's older, some younger, you start to say, okay, this is now my belief, because I say it's like I've taken ownership of it, it's now mine, right? Or I choose to reject my parents' beliefs for this reason or that reason, right? And so people have to take ownership, like it's now mine, either that or I have a new belief or a lack of belief, So was there a certain time when you just started to think more for yourself, and this is no longer, like you took ownership of your belief?
Okay, I think belief is a lifelong journey.
Sure.
So in the age of 13, I started to have doubts, like big doubts. I started to stop. I stopped praying and I stopped it all. And then at the age of 20, I came back to my beliefs as a Muslim, and I started prayer and all over again. And then on the 22nd,
age of 22?
Yeah, age 22, I went back to, I believe there is God, there must be God.
Yeah.
But it's not written in any of these books. Because when you see injustice going all over the world, and especially I was in the revolution, I was deep in the revolution, and when the revolution broke down and
in Libya, or I know it also happened in Egypt too,
in
right?
Egypt, yeah. And the military power came, and the Muslim Brotherhood came. You begin to feel injustice all over the place, and you begin to believe that all these rules and laws that you made in the Constitution, that you extracted it from the Quran or whatever, is must be something wrong.
Yeah.
I believe it's in the people.
Yeah.
Also, this wrong matter, but.
So you have a certain level of criticism towards maybe all religions, not just Islam, right? Would it be the injustice of them? Is that the main source of? I don't want to, criticism or doubt. Main source of doubt about the religions.
Yes, because at the end, now we see the whole world as it's going. It's not going in the right direction.
Right.
I think
there's a lot of evil and ugliness in the world,
and
right?
Corruption.
And when you say you believe in God, do you believe in a being that has a mind? Like is God? Because in Christianity we view God as our heavenly Father. We can have a relationship with God. I'm not so sure about Islam. Maybe. And also I know you're not supposed to make images of God, right? So do you see God as someone, a being that has a mind of his own, that makes decisions of his own, and that you can have a relationship with? Or the other alternative, just so you know, is like some people believe God is like electricity, like a power, you know.
I'm
But
more with this like a soul, like the essence of the human being, the essence of the grass, the essence of the sun and the sky and the wind and everything. That's God.
Yeah.
You
That's-
can maybe after death you can belong more and go with the flow more
I see.
and see God or feel God but I cannot imagine him like a face
Right.
or
Yeah.
in shape of human beings.
Right. I mean, I don't think, you know, as Christians, we don't believe God is, you know, like on some movies they'll show, you know, like this old man sitting on a throne, you know,
Yes, with
and
the-
that's
with
not
the white
according to the
beard.
Bible, you know. So that, you know, that's not what we think, but God does, you know, like in the Bible, and I'm not so sure about the Quran. In the Bible, God speaks to people, you know, like Moses and Abraham, and so they have conversations. And there's actually times when someone like Moses can even argue with God and say, "Please don't do this to me," or don't, you know, like he has a conversation and can actually convince God to change his mind. I think God allows him to have that kind of, you know. Does the Quran have that?
Yes, I've
Okay.
read the Bible.
Uh-huh.
I mean the Old Testament and the New Testament and the Quran.
Yeah.
And the Bible is like more friendly going through.
Yeah.
But the Quran too have these kind of
Conversations. What, between
and-
Muhammad then and
No, between
God?
Moses and God.
Moses?
Yes, and it has the whole it has the whole story of Jesus Christ. I don't remember the
Like the gospel, or I mean, yeah. Our understanding, I'll just let you know, like as a Christian, our understanding is that Muhammad, as a trader, had come into contact with Christian people and Jewish people.
and it's written in the
In his-
Quran, and we have, I mean, Muslims have to believe in Jesus Christ
Right.
and in Hail Mary,
Yeah,
and especially Hail Mary.
really?
It's really praised in the Quran.
Huh.
If you can go through the pages of the Quran, you will find the most beautiful images of Jesus or Mary or
You know, there's
Hail
probably.
Mary.
I mean, I didn't know that. I would say there's. It sounds like there's maybe more about Mary in the Quran than in the Bible, because she's
Not
really
like
not
that.
emphasized that much. You know, a wonderful lady, but yeah, we would say she was a person. You know, like a human being,
Yeah.
not the mother of God, or you know. But anyway, yeah. So I'm just asking, you know, like so it does sound like in Islam, God would be a personality who speaks, and we can have, you know, like who we can imagine as someone we can have a conversation with or have a relationship with. But maybe for you personally, you see God as more like a power or something, right? Have you seen Star Wars, the whole Star Wars series?
Not really.
No?
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. I'm
I'm more in Gandalf and
Lord of the
Rings
Rings.
and-
Interesting. Well, have you seen any of the Star Wars movies? Because you know, when I say the Force, right?
Mhm.
You've heard of the Force?
Yes, I have. it.
So in Star Wars, it's like this force that gives the Jedi Knights their supernatural powers and things, and kind of seems like this force works things out. If you're in tune with the force, you know, you can be on the side of good or on the dark side, you know. So, but yeah, so we would say, you know, that God, and you're familiar with how the Bible starts. If you read the Bible, you know, it says God says, "Let us make man in our image," you know, which is interesting because it refers to God. It says, it talks about God in one sentence. It says, And God said, let us make man in our image. And God is singular, like one being, but then he says, let us, plural, make man in our image, you know? So it's like, how does that work, you know? And so, you know, within Christianity, we believe in the Trinity. You're aware of that, right? Like God is the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and there's this relationship between them. But we would say that God is the creator and that man is the creation, and angels are part of the creation, demons even, fallen angels. So it's not just like the physical universe that's the creation, but also the spiritual beings are created by God. When you say something like, well, I think God is in everything, you know, like in the land, and we return to God when we die, that's kind of sounds like what's called pantheism, you know, the Hindu religion, where they believe Hindus. So they believe that God is a part of the creation. He's not separate from the creation. God, the creator, is a part of the creation. And so if you were to worship God, you would need to worship the land and the universe and the stars and all the things that are all the created beings, you know. So I don't know, you know, if that's something you've thought about, or
I mean, everyone. It's really good to have every diversity of beliefs. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's good for peaceful life.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's more than this. It's more than you return to God, but there must be a kind of journey or something like that.
Yeah.
In returning to God, but it's not how any religion described it. Because
as far as a religion or a journey, I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of journey. There has to be, and there has to be like the matter, the big matter of God, where we can like be in His presence.
Well, if you're a filmmaker, I mean, I don't know how documentaries work, but you know, in a film, you're concerned with character development, right? Like, how does the character change throughout the story, right? And I think I hear you saying, you know, like, our relationship with God is like a journey. We don't just start it and, you know, and then it remains the same the rest of our lives. We journey through life and we change, you know, and our understanding of God changes. And there's some character development here, you know?
Yes.
And I do think that's, you know, the Bible is very much about, and I suppose a lot of religions are very much about, you know, like how we grow as people and how we learn to hopefully get along, you know, as people. Sometimes I find that people who are very rigid in their beliefs as new believers start to be more accepting and more flexible as they get older, you know?
And they...
or the other way around, I guess. As they get more and more, stronger in their belief.
Maybe there's... for violence, I mean, there must be a shock, I think. A big shock to let people go violence with religion.
Yeah.
But I think it's... most of the human beings must have this space to take the pace easily with religion, and they develop all the whole journey, not just in the, because what comes fast, it broke fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes violence.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I've learned to do as a Christian, and I talk to other people of other religions like yourself, or even within Christianity, you know, there's a lot of different expressions of Christianity, right? And then I also meet a lot of atheists and people who, or maybe are agnostic, they don't care about religion. But I do believe that all the different religions have, like, all people, I don't even want to say religions, all people have a lot in common. And the main thing that I, as a Christian, believe that we have in common comes from the Bible. It actually, like, you know the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, and they're, God gives them this choice. Not a choice, he gives them a command, don't eat from that one tree, and you've got all these other trees to eat from, but don't eat from that one tree. And it's like all they can do is focus on the one tree, right? And so God told them what to do and what not to do. And I guess they thought they had a choice, and they decided, well, we'll just make up our own rule. We'll do our own thing, right? And so they rebel against God. And as soon as Adam and Eve ate from that fruit, the Bible says it was like scales fell from their eyes and they knew good from evil, right? And in the Bible, it talks about how God put his law in our hearts. From that moment on, people knew good from evil. And I view that as, okay, that means everybody, like and the Bible I think is clear about that everyone, all descendants of Adam and Eve, which would be you and I and all other people, doesn't matter the religion or whether we don't believe in religion, or we all have a sense of right and wrong. We all have a conscience. And I do think, like the Bible talks about some people hardening their hearts or becoming calloused, like the more we go against our conscience and do things that we know we shouldn't do, or the more we neglect to do the good things that we should do, the more hardened we get in our heart towards our conscience, to the point where we can't even, after a while, there are some people that don't even know right and wrong, or they get in the habit of ignoring it over and over and over again, to the point where it doesn't affect them, right? But that's not to say all people, all people do have a conscience, Now, just because we have a conscience doesn't mean we keep it. So we have a sense of right and wrong built in, and maybe even a sense of accountability to someone. Like, we know right and wrong and we know we better follow it, but that doesn't mean we do. Just like Adam and Eve, they knew don't eat from that tree, but they did it anyway, And so that, to me, is what we all have in common as human beings, is that we have a conscience, a human moral conscience that's different from animals. Animals have instinct, but making moral choices and choosing to go against our morals at times and to think that we're the exception to the rule, that's what causes us to break our conscience, So then when I think about that, I think all the different religions are efforts by man to somehow justify our existence, given the fact that there is injustice, or given the fact that we do break God's laws, or we do things that we know we shouldn't do.
Okay, I got you.
Okay? And so the different religions, what do we have in common? We all have a conscience. How are we different? We all think there's different ways of righting those wrongs that we've done. See what I'm saying? And so if you can, one religion might say do this and this and this, and then you'll be okay, One religion might say, okay, put your emphasis on your social relationships with other people, and another one might say, no, put your emphasis on religious activities between you and God, and like there might be different things, but all religions. What do you think about that view?
Okay, all religion.
All the different religions. I'm talking about like the major world religions. Yeah.
Yeah, like the holy religions, like the Muslims, Jew, and Christians. They all are. They all have the good and the bad.
Sure. Yeah.
They have the good and the bad of everything.
Yeah.
And God teaches everything in the three religions, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that the human being is the one who interpret. Like when I read the Quran for the first time, without putting any of how people rephrase it.
Yeah.
I found it really like smooth and beautiful. And it's a whole of good things.
Yeah.
But when the people interpret it, they began to do like the same as how Adam and
put their own like interpretations in it.
Yes.
Like, okay, God said this, but we're gonna do that.
Because we can this word beside this word, it can mean another word.
Now, when you read the Quran for the first time, is that in your original? You speak Arabic, is it? And that's what it's written in.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty close to the Arabic you learned in Egypt growing up. Like, is it very different?
No. It's the same.
Okay, I guess
same language.
Yeah, we're so used to languages changing through time, but I guess if the whole society is based on, say, the Quran, that becomes the standard, and so language doesn't change, right? Is that pretty much? See what I'm saying?
No.
Like in English, if you were to compare the way we talk with the way, say, Shakespeare spoke 500 years ago, or however, it's very different.
Yeah, sure.
They use a lot of different words and
thy and thee
and
some stuff from
and so I guess my question is, and one of the things that's kind of unified the English language is the King James Bible, but then now we've gotten away from the King James Bible, and we have more modern translations, and so we feel free to change our language and use new phrases because we don't have a standard that we are following as much. Now, if the Quran, it's very much against Islam to change anything about the Quran, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So there's no room for change. So the language, I'm thinking, okay, so the Arabic you learned is very similar to the Arabic in the Quran. No, not too many different words that you don't use on a...
Just the same.
So
few words change.
That must be awesome to read the Quran. I mean, Islam has such a strict requirement for people that grow up with a different language. They have to read the Quran and supposed to read it in the original language, in Arabic,
Yeah.
So you had an advantage reading it.
And also I think the Arabic translation for the Bible is the most close, because the Bible is written in Coptic, Latin, and so we have a good translation for the Bible also.
Yeah. How did your English get so good?
In school.
Yeah.
And
just
films also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you first start studying English?
From the first grade.
Oh, okay. So it's part of the Egyptian. Were you in like an Egyptian public school system, or?
There is two kind of schools, like three kind of schools, like the public ones, and they start to learn English from the 4th grade, and then there is a experimental. It's not private and not public, which I was in.
Oh, okay.
It starts from the 1st grade English, and then from the 4th grade you start with the French language.
Do you know French too then?
A little bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Petit peu.
Yeah.
And then there is the private school, and then there is the American schools, British schools.
Oh, okay.
In Egypt also.
So there's still quite a bit of remnants of British colonization in Egypt.
Yeah.
Or not so much?
No.
Weren't they a British colony?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, But it's too far from where we started. But I think because it's the thing with the globalization,
Yeah.
we have.
So they want to be able to compete globally. business and stuff. So, so I understand that, to look at the different religions and want to be a man of peace. I can tell you're a man of peace, that you want people to get along, not to be conflict. The problem I have as a Christian is, like I do look at the different religions, and from a distance, like you can look at something from a distance and not see all the details. So from a distance, I see that all the religions have basic moral values and basic, what's the word for it? I forget. Morals and
Ethics.
Ethics. That's the exact word I'm looking for. Ethics. I'm glad that most of the people of the world belong to one of the world religions, because the religions help us to become good people and to get along. For the most part. So from a distance, it's like the religions govern our behavior, and help us to become better people. Close up, though, the concepts of God and how we're to live out our lives, and how we're to make up for the fact that we have a conscience but we break it, they have a different story, So like in Buddhism, there is no God, I guess. In Hinduism, there's one God with about 1 million different forms. So we would say it's polytheistic, but I've talked to Hindus and they say no, it's all part of the same God. But then it's all wrapped up into the creation too. Islam's very different from Christianity, because in Christianity we believe in the Trinity, so the Holy Spirit, the Son, and the Father. So for us it would be hard for us to say Jesus is just a prophet. The main difference, the main way I would describe Jesus is that he always existed too. That God has always existed, and that Jesus is the creator. He's not part of the creation. God the Father didn't make, Jesus along with the other angels and things like that. So we would say Jesus is God himself in human form. Judaism, I think, they do teach about a Messiah, but I think that then again a lot of Jewish people are going away from waiting for a Messiah anymore. I think they're kind of giving up on, where's this Messiah, or maybe. So, but there's different concepts of God, between the religions, and different ways that we can have a relationship with God. And they're not compatible with each other. They're in conflict, Even within Christianity, our understanding of God, there's a conflict between God being a God of love, who would accept us and forgive us and have mercy, and a God who loves justice. So if God is good, God would be a God of justice, which means there must be a consequence for evil. We don't just let evil go rampant and there's nothing to, no answer to evil actions, right? So if you were to kill someone, or someone was to rape someone, or, child molestation, there's got to be a consequence for that. And so the Bible teaches that God is a God of good. Number one, primarily God is good, and in his goodness he's loving and kind, but in his goodness he's also loves justice. There must be a consequence. And the problem for us, and actually we believe for all people, is that we've broken God's laws. So although God would love to show us love and mercy, on one hand, he must show us justice. And those two attributes of God are in conflict. And if God was to compromise his love, well, let's say his justice, compromise his justice and say, okay, well, you committed a sin, but you said you were sorry, and you're going to go out and do some nice things, then God's justice isn't a perfect justice. And the reason I say that is because when we sin, when we break God's laws, we're primarily sinning against God himself. Even though I might steal from someone else, or I might lie to someone else, or I might kill someone, or, those sins are against other people, but primarily they're against God, because it's God's command, don't do these things, right? And so because God is infinitely, because of this high understanding that we have of God's holiness and his infinite goodness and his infinite glory, the punishment would be an infinite punishment. Kind of in the same way, like if I kicked a dog on the street, I might get in some trouble, man's laws, right? I might get a fine from the Humane Society. If I punch a person on the street, just some regular guy, I might get locked up in jail for a month. If I punch the president of the country, I might get put in jail for 10 years.
Yeah.
But if I was to punch God or somehow offend God, it wouldn't just be like 20 years, it would be an eternity, because God is eternally more worthy than anything and anyone else. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So our understanding is that God's justice can't be compromised. He will not, it would violate his character to compromise his justice. But at the same time, he doesn't want to compromise his love either. He wants to be completely and perfectly loving. So if God is to treat us with perfect love and perfect justice, on the one hand, we'd be forgiven perfectly, and on the other hand, we would have to perfectly pay that punishment, which would be hell. It would be an eternity in hell. And this is why I'll tell you, this is why I'm a Christian, okay? Is because at the cross of Jesus, if that truly was God hanging on the cross, taking, the punishment I deserve, and everybody deserves, God would be showing perfect love by making the perfect sacrifice, because Jesus, we believe, was perfect. He never sinned, never did anything wrong. So he's showing us, he's sacrificing himself, and there's perfect justice because because there is a punishment for sin. It's just that God, in his mercy, says we don't have to take it. He takes the punishment for us. I heard a story once about the way I heard the story was, it took place in Nazi Germany during the World War II, and a group of Jewish people had to hide in the forest away from the Nazis, right? And so they're living in the forest. They couldn't have any contact with the outside world, and they realized, we only have so much food. There's say about 100 of them, right, living in this forest. We only have so much food. We're going to have to be very careful to make sure that that we have strict ration, that we ration the food, and no one can have more than their fair share, right? And if we're going to do that, we have to make laws about it. We have to have a lawgiver, and we have to make sure that the laws are followed perfectly. Because if we just give anyone, a break, then everyone
would break.
People will think we can just break any laws, right? So they're doing fine until one day a loaf of bread comes up missing, and they had appointed a guy to be their judge, and so he's sitting in his throne, on a chair or whatever, and he's the judge, and he's making decisions, and they bring this old woman before him, and they say, "Judge, we found this woman. She took some bread, and the law was that if anyone takes some bread like this, they would be whipped, right?" And everyone's looking at him like, "What are you going to do, Judge?" Because they realize that if this woman took that punishment, she would probably die, right? And then the judge looks at her and is like, "Oh no, it's his own mother." So he has this choice. on the one hand, he loves his mother. On the other hand, he's the judge. He must follow the rules of, like justice must be served. What can he do, right? And so he says, I got to think about this. And so the next morning he comes and sits in his chair with his robe on, and everyone's gathered to see what's he going to do. And he says, as judge of this community, I sentence you to 40 lashes with the whip, right? And everyone's like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that. But at the same time, what could you do? And then he gets up from his throne, and he takes off his robe, and he goes down among the people, and he says, but as a citizen of this community, I volunteered to take her punishment for her. And that's the essence of Christianity. That's why we believe if Jesus is just a mere man or even a created being like an angel, what he has to be equal to God himself to take the punishment, the eternal punishment that we deserve. Yeah. And that's why Christians are so, the Bible teaches, that he's God's son. Jesus made claims to be God's son. He forgave people. Like if I was to offend another person and Jesus is there, Jesus would say, I forgive you, like I offended him, Only God can do that, So that's been a part of Christianity, and it's a major difference between Christianity and Islam, is that, it's what is our view of Jesus, Is he God in the flesh, or is he just like a holy teacher or a prophet or
a messenger?
Messenger. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Christianity teaches people how to be peaceful.
I think
if one punch you on the left.
You're right.
I don't know.
As a matter of fact. Huh?
إذا صفعك أحدهم على خدك الأيمن فأدر له الخد الأيسر.
Wow, you got it memorized.
Someone punish you on the left.
Yeah. Is that like a saying in Arabic, or?
No, it's a.
I know it's from the Bible,
yeah.
Right? I actually work with young people, inner city young people, like from housing projects, or I'm a high school teacher too. So, and as I've taught different people about Christianity, that's one of the hardest verses, like Jesus taught that if someone punches me, I should turn the other cheek to them. It's like they can't believe it, and I don't blame them. I mean, you'd be seen as being weak or something, but
no, but it's
there's strength in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has more strength than punchback.
Yeah, and I do believe Christianity teaches us to be peaceful. Not all Christians, let me say this, a lot of people, especially in America, call themselves Christians. They grew up, calling themselves, they don't even understand what Christianity is about. They don't read the Bible, and yet they claim to be Christians. So there are a lot of things, and Jesus said this, a lot of things will be done in my name, Jesus said, but I don't even know those people, But the reason I believe Christianity really teaches us to be peaceful is Jesus died for my sins. I deserved to be on that cross myself. I deserve to take that punishment. If he did that for me, how can I not turn around and show that kind of mercy and kindness to other people, and the generosity, Really, we understand that because we sin against God, God has every right to just strike us down right now, We're not guaranteed another day of life, but yet God continues to give me my food and clothes and, wonderful people in my life, and God is so gracious and good and kind to me. How can I not be good and kind to other people, And so I think if people really do understand Christianity and maybe read the Bible a little more, there would be more peace.
Yeah, sure. If everyone read his own religion without paying attention to
all the traditions and
bad things and stuff, they will really find a really good
Yeah.
way of life.
I mean, I know. So if Jesus, if God actually, like, here's why I say the religions are contradictory, and I actually believe Christianity is very, very different from other religions for this reason. Other religions would say, and even a lot of people who say they're Christians would say this, it would say, if you do enough good in this life, you'll have a better life to come. Some kind of like heaven, or, you know, some kind of reward. Christianity says, well, the good things we do, we should do anyway, just because it's the right thing to do. Just because God is worthy, just because God said do these, good things and avoid doing these bad things. So the good things we do can't outweigh the bad we've done. We should do the good anyway. But the bad things we do, yeah, we're accountable for them. And so most religions would be what we call works religions. In other words, you're working for salvation, or you're working to be saved, right? In Christianity, it's not a works religion, it's a grace religion. Grace means you're getting something you don't deserve. A works religion is you're getting what you do deserve, and the assumption is if you do enough good, you deserve heaven. Grace means I don't deserve to go to heaven, but God is being gracious to me and giving me mercy and allowing me to go to heaven despite the fact that I've sinned. And so for me and for Christians, our understanding is, if that's what God did for us, how can we need to turn around and show God gratitude and thanksgiving. And so that's why I say it's very different. So when Jesus himself was very exclusive. He said, I am the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father, to God, but through me. And so as a Christian, I'd have to say it's very exclusive as far as a person needs to be a Christian to go to heaven, I do need to say that. But at the same time, it's very universal because it's open to everybody. All people can become Christians. If you look at it that way, I mean, God is making his grace known to all who will accept it and receive it, So I have conversations like this, and I love to be able to share more about Christianity, and I love to hear and understand other people's perspectives.
Yeah, it's good that I've enjoyed the conversation very well, yeah.
So I would love to, do you live in the neighborhood, or?
I live in South Indiana.
South Indiana?
Yeah.
Oh, on the street?
Nearby, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is my, so I make the video and I put it on I have a blog. So that's the information right there. And so my name's Jeff, and that's my phone number. And I would love to talk more.
Sure.
Do you like to read a lot?
Read what?
Do you like to read? Looks like you like to read.
Yeah,
In English? English?
Maybe, yeah.
I'm going to give you this. This is a really good book. It's about Jesus, but it says more than a carpenter. Jesus spent most of his early life as a carpenter. But it also gives, kind of a defense of the Bible. Like, where did the Bible come from, and who wrote it, and how can we trust that it's accurate, things like that. So I would love to hear what you think of that.
Okay, great.
So, all right?
Yeah.
And also what you think of the film. Usually I take a couple days and think about conversations I have, and then I read a little bit about it and kind of try to relate it to something from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a couple days, and it'll be, you can look on that on that website, and you can also see like other conversations I've had with other people too.
Okay, great.
All right.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And I'm going to turn this off, but would you? Not too many people watch these videos, just so you know. But do you have access to your films where I could see what you've done?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have them posted like on YouTube or anything like that?
On Vimeo.
Vimeo?
Yeah. I can send you email with the.
Yeah, if you could do that, and if you do it within a day or two, I'll make sure I put that information on my story, just in case anyone sees it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's, so this
You
is the
said-
email also.
That's
Or where is it?
I can be reached at this email. They'll just forward it to me. That's my church, and that's that's just a few blocks away from here. Would love to have you visit also.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah. So I'll wait to hear from you. I try not to impose too much, so I'll trust you to
Okay.
contact me.
Great.
So, all right. I'll kind of show where I am.